What is up, my friend? AJ Amyx here. I'm a life coach who helps hungry leaders create their best life, navigate the challenges of their marriage, heal from past pain, and experience more joy. And today we're diving into the topic of healing wounded feminine energy, and it's an integral part for any man or any woman who just wants to become more of who they are. And before we jump in, I want you to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell icon so you never miss out on any of our weekly videos. And with that being said, let's dive in. Now, first and foremost, when I say feminine energy, I'm not saying women. Healing wounded feminine energy is not just for women. It's for every single person. We all have it. It's an energetic force within every single human being, regardless of their gender. Like on the light side, feminine energy, it's nurturing, it's intuitive, and it's focused on connection and empathy. And then on the shadow side, feminine energy is like over-nurturing, passive, it's expressive without boundaries, overly emotional, it's manipulative, victim-based, and dependent. And when it's wounded, someone may feel disconnected or overly critical or even just emotionally drained. And wounds to our feminine energy, they can come from a whole different bunch of sources. I mean, it could be due to societal pressures or past traumas or even just an imbalance between our own masculine and feminine energies. And one of my big feminine wounds actually came from my father. You see, growing up, I felt like the only way that I was going to get acceptance or recognition from my dad was if I won in sports and if I won in academics. And see, I remember this time that I was in high school, I was taking this college calculus class, and I grew up in a household where if I didn't make straight A's, then I couldn't play soccer. And at that time in my life, playing soccer was my entire world, and I wanted to play professionally, and I was obsessed with it, and I was highly skilled, and I was good at it. So not playing soccer, it just wasn't an option for me, so you better believe I created the straight A's. So here I was taking this college calculus class in high school because it's what my dad wanted from me. And I remember like when the first 6 weeks of that class had ended, I had made like a 92 in that college calculus class, and man, I was excited. I was excited to get home and then share that victory with my dad. And when I got home, I gave him my report card and he looked at my math score and he said, 92, why wasn't 100? Right then, right there, I felt so deflated, so full of shame. I didn't get any praise, no recognition. Instead, I just got, why wasn't 100? So I told my dad, I was like, man, look, I'll try better next 6 weeks. Next 6 week rolls around, I get 100 in that college calculus class, and I am pumped. I rush home, I share the big victory with my dad, and he looks at my report card and he says, 100, why wasn't 100 a 10? And again, no praise, no recognition. I remember saying like, Dad, I don't know, man. Like, they don't give 110. If they did, I'd try to get it. And again, I felt defeated and toxic shame just crept into my body. And I went on to make straight A's all through college, all through school. But looking back, I had this feminine wound of nothing I ever did, nothing I ever accomplished. It just wasn't enough. It was like I was always chasing more money, more time, more love, more sex, just more for the sake of more. And this was this huge feminine wound for me. Now, another feminine wound actually came from my grandmother. See, she was this fiery, red-headed person, had this temper. And I remember being like 10 years old or so. I was sitting in the passenger seat of her car while all my younger cousins, they sat in the back of her little car. I was the oldest grandkid. Well, one night she'd taken us to like Christmas lights or something like that, and it was raining on the way home. And I remember my cousins were being loud in the back of the car, and she aggressively asked them to be quiet because she was stressed out. And they wouldn't quiet down, and so she reached over to me, I guess because I was the closest, I don't know, and she like thumped me on the head, and she said something like, be quiet, little shits, or something like that. I don't remember. But it was at that moment I was like, well, I'm not coming back to grandma's house. And I made a decision that day that anger and fully expressing emotions without restraints, well, it's just bad because it hurts people. And this wound, it set me on a path to take how I express very seriously and very responsibly. And it also set me on a path to expect other people to really take how they express as very seriously and to be extremely responsible in their expression. And this led me to being a people pleaser for so many years because I just didn't want to be like my fiery redheaded grandma who hurt people. Now, these are two examples of my own feminine wounds. And my hope is by me sharing some of these experiences is it helps you to start seeing how your experience may have shaped your life and impacted you. Now, the real question is like, how can someone recognize the signs of wounded feminine? It's a great question. Well, some of the common symptoms, well, they include a lack of self-esteem, emotional instability, and an inability to express love or to receive it openly. Now, this plays out in all kinds of relationships with other people, and it also plays out with your relationship with yourself. So let's start with relationships with other people. If you have wounded feminine energy, somebody might notice a pattern of attracting and maintaining unhealthy relationships. Now, I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. It could even be friendships or work relationships or even relationships within your own family. The point is, if there's this ongoing cycle of emotional neglect or even abuse inside that relationship dynamic, it's probably because the individual with wounded feminine energy just might struggle with setting boundaries. And then you have the relationship with self, which is super important for someone to feel healthy, whole, and complete. Now, healthy feminine energy, it's all about nurturing and empathy and intuition, but when it's wounded, there's normally like a lack of self-esteem, a lack of self-worth, and just this constant self-depreciation. And this type of person might be overly critical of themselves, critical of others, and they may even like manifest as having like this perfectionistic tendency or having like this constant need for validation. And I'll tell you, that was me for so many years. Now, finally, you have emotional instability. Wounded feminine energy can lead to emotional instability, and this may look like someone experiencing overwhelming emotions and really just not knowing how to navigate or lead themselves through them. Perhaps they have mood swings, or maybe they're just emotionally numb and disconnected. It's almost like there's this difficulty in processing emotions, leading to a state of constant emotional turmoil, or the opposite, which is like emotional detachment. Now, these are just like the general symptoms, but my hope is you can start to see how wounded feminine energy can impact someone's lives. These impacts can vary greatly based on someone's experiences, their circumstances, and their environment, and it's always important to seek professional help if you're struggling. Now, the good news is every single person on the planet has the capacity to heal, to grow, to evolve, as long as someone is willing to put in the effort, the time, and the occasionally just get some guidance. Now, let's switch gears a little bit and let's explore like a little bit more of the core of today's video, which is really how to like heal the wounded feminine energy. So healing technique number one is mindfulness and meditation. Now, these practices, they can help you reconnect with your inner self, fostering self-awareness and self-love, because meditation allows us to start quieting down the noise of the outside world and really tune into our own thoughts and our feelings and our own needs. For some practical steps, let me just teach you this. Step number one, like find a quiet, comfortable space where you're just not going to be disturbed. Number two, start with just a few minutes each day, gradually increasing your time in meditation. Like if you're just starting out, 5 minutes a day will help. And then over time, increase your capacity, increase your time by like 5 more minutes. Number three here, focus on your breath or use a guided meditation if you find it difficult to focus. I personally love using the Insight Timer app. It's a great app for learning how to meditate, and I'm also a huge fan of the Self-Realization Fellowship lessons by Yogananda. The SRF lessons, they're some of the best training around meditation that I've come across so far, and you can find those online. Number four, observe your thoughts and your feelings without judgment. The goal is to be present here in this moment. Like when you're first starting out, you may start noticing how many thoughts you actually have in a 5-minute period. Now, this is actually good because you're starting to become aware. The key is making the decision to be the observer of your thoughts for just 5 minutes a day rather than the thinker of your thoughts. If you'll practice meditation daily, over time, your ability to be mentally disciplined is just going to become stronger and stronger and stronger, which then translates into an increased ability for you to become more and more aware and perceptive of what's really going on inside of you and outside of you in your mind, body, and soul. Now, healing technique number two is expressive arts therapy. Now, this sounds fancy, but it doesn't have to be, and you don't even need a therapist for this, but if you want to go that route, you can totally do that as well, so no problem. So expressive arts therapy can include any form of creative expression like writing, painting, dancing, or singing. Basically, the aim is to allow yourself to freely express your emotions and your inner experiences, where you're just like having and fostering a new sense of expression and like having emotional release. Now, some practical steps to pull this off are, number one, choose a form of art that you actually enjoy or that you feel drawn to. Now, this doesn't even mean that you have to create art or be an artist. Some of my own personal breakthroughs around this, and a lot of my breakthroughs around my clients, have come from a process I call daily dialogue. Now, this is a journaling process where you just pull out a 5x8 journal and you just write for 3 pages. Just stream of consciousness, you just start writing. Even if that means you're just writing like, this is stupid, this is stupid, this is stupid, why am I doing this? This random guy on the internet's telling me. Like, just keep writing, I don't care. I'm telling you, something magical always happens when somebody gets about halfway to 3/4 through just a single page. It's almost like stuff just starts magically flowing out of them. And then from there, they can start asking empowering questions and just write what naturally comes as a response. You'll be surprised what happens. Daily dialogue is a super powerful tool to start getting in touch with that wounded feminine energy and really starting to witness yourself. Now, number two here, we want to engage in this activity regularly without really putting pressure on yourself to create something like perfect. If you decide to try the daily dialogue journaling path I just shared, like commit to doing it Monday through Friday, right after you wake up, Like, just write 3 pages. Just go to bed, wake up, have some coffee, write 3 pages. It's super simple, and my encouragement is like, just see where it takes you. Like, see what it surfaces, see what it starts healing for you. And number 3 here, let your emotions guide your creation. It's not about the final product. It's more about the process of expression. Huge distinction here. Like, even in daily dialogue, it's not unto healing. It's not. It's unto you simply expressing whatever's like stuffed down inside that body of yours. Just to get it up out of you, and then start looking at it objectively. It's not about the final product. It's about the expression itself. This is what starts the healing process. Okay, healing technique number 3, setting boundaries. Now, setting boundaries is crucial in any healing journey, and by learning to set healthy boundaries, you can start protecting your energy and preventing others from causing further harm. And I want you to remember this. Boundaries are things that you can control. Now, a lot of people get this wrong. Like, if you say, "You cannot talk to me like that," I'm going to have you consider that's not a proper boundary, because you can't really control how somebody chooses to talk to you. Now, what you can control is by saying something like, "If you talk to me like that, I'm going to hang up the phone," or "If you talk to me like that, I'm going to leave the room." That's an example of something that you can control. That's an example of a practical, proper boundary. Now, some practical steps to pull this off is, number 1, identify situations or relationships where you actually just feel drained or disrespected, like things that aren't serving you. Number 2, decide what behavior you will and will not accept from others. Number 3, communicate your boundaries clearly. Remember, it's not about being aggressive. That's not going to serve the situation. It's more about being assertive with something that you can control. You can always control how you will respond. I would just focus on that. And the number 4 here, practice saying no. It's not selfish to prioritize your own needs. You know, one time I had this client who's a huge people pleaser. He's one of the nicest guys I ever met. And one month I issued him a challenge. I said, "Hey man, let's call this a no challenge. And for 30 days, I just want you to say no. Anytime somebody asks you to do something, just say no." So he chose to take on that challenge, and it was hugely transformational for him. Like, he'd go to church and the deacon would be like, "Yo man, you want to run so-and-so, or you want to do this next Sunday?" And he'd look at the deacon and he'd be like, "No." Like, no justifications, no defending, no proving, just a simple no. And during that time, he experientially learned that he and other people were totally okay when he said no. It's crazy how powerful such a simple 2-letter word can really be. Just no. So these are the 4 techniques that you can use to heal your wounded feminine energy. And I want you to remember, healing is not a linear journey. It can take time, and in some cases, it can take no time at all. Just don't be discouraged by the setbacks as you're going along the journey. Instead, celebrate every single step forward and be gentle with yourself along the way. And if you feel overwhelmed, it may help you to find a mental health professional or an amazing life coach to help guide you through your healing journey. And I say it may take time or it may not take time, because I've just coached so many people, and I know that they get what they're ready to get. Like, if they truly want to be healed right now, so it is. And if they are unconsciously, they're just not ready, then so it's not. So I don't believe anybody should, sit on some therapist's couch for 10 years talking about the same root issue over and over and over again. That is nonsense to me. I believe in results, and I believe in getting to the root as quickly as possible so we can change the fruit. And so the last thing I want in my life is some client sitting here wasting time, not being who they're here to be. And I want to do everything in my power to be able to help get somebody back into power, getting them back into who they are and creating the things that they're here to create, like yesterday. So that's what I have for you today. I hope this has served you. We've covered a lot of ground, so I want to hear from you. Like, where do you see in your own life that you're carrying around wounded feminine energy? And also, what healing techniques are speaking to you right now? Like, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And also, if you found this video helpful, please share it with your friends who you think that it would serve, and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for being here, and until next time, my friend, I'm out. Peace.